We can start from the beginning. So I was born premature, 1 pound, 6 ounces, like really tiny. So growing up, premature mothers of premature babies tend to overfeed their children. So that happened to me. So growing up, I wasn't like heavy. I was just like chunky, had like kind of the baby fat going on. So carrying through that, I kind of saw myself as that, like that image never went away. So in high school, I decided, okay, I'm going to start and drop the weight. So I started working out and eating healthy. My mom's a personal trainer, so I got into that aspect, and she also has her own eating disorder type things. So it's all very learned, kind of trickle down effect. So about my freshman year of college, I went to James Madison, Virginia, and when I got there, I guess it just wasn't for me, and this is where everything started coming out, and how I just wouldn't eat. I was eating a lot, but I wasn't eating enough because I was working out at least 2 hours a day. I would run for 2 hours and then lift in between those days. It was a lot, and then for dinner it would just be salad, no fat things, and I thought it was healthy just because I looked good and I was thin, but I wouldn't touch the other foods just because I thought like it would make me gain weight and I couldn't perform as well when I was running and things like that. So with the exercise, it was kind of like a sense of accomplishment where like, oh man, I just ran for 2 hours and I clocked in almost a half marathon, and like if I didn't keep doing that, then my performance would decrease. So you could say that I had both an exercise and eating disorder where I became obsessed with both. So when I came home from school that first summer, my parents saw that I was a skeleton. I mean, right now I'm 160 on a good day, and I dropped to 126. So I was really, really thin, and my parents were like, "You need to get help, and we need to, take you out of school and all this stuff." And I said, "Okay, I'll do this." But there was obviously a lot of resistance in the beginning, because I still wanted to exercise just as much. And it was hard for me to be able to eat because I didn't want to gain the weight. I didn't know what that looked like, because my body shape like isn't that perfect like male ratio of like big shoulders and small hips, kind of like hourglass shape. So it's kind of like an emasculating aspect. So I didn't want to bring up that image of me when I was a little kid, so because that was still there. So I went to a registered dietitian and a therapist too. So I went to a couple therapists because some of them didn't want to help me or they couldn't, So I finally went to one where she said, you have to eat. Like it's just kind of this, they kind of submerge you into something and get you out of your comfort zone, because I call it that's where the magic happens. Because if you just keep doing what you're doing, you're not going to come out of that cycle. And when I talk about the cycle, it's kind of like this, there's obviously external pressure from other people, but there's also this internal voice of like, you're kind of trapped in your own head because like, especially me, because I had both exercise and an eating disorder, and I guess I still do. It's kind of like an alcoholic, you're always in recovery. So there was that voice inside my head saying like, you can't eat this much, you're going to gain weight, or you have to, burn it off by running another hour and a half. When I was hurting all the time, I was, sore and, losing all this weight still. So I don't know, I guess it just kind of clicked one day where I said, okay, like, let's just try it, let's eat. And slowly but surely, I started gaining weight, and, I saw that it wasn't so bad. And that, okay, now I'm getting up to 135, and then 137, then 145. And looking back, it was great because I was just eating whatever I wanted. It was anyone's dream just to be able to eat as much as you want whenever you want. So after that happened and I started to get better, I said, okay, like, do I really want to go? Because what happened was I left James Madison. I was like, okay, what do I really want to do? I didn't really like it there, and I think that was part of it. Just too far away from home and not my cup of tea. I didn't like what I was studying. I was international business and Spanish, and also I wasn't really liking it. So I said, all right, let's go a little closer to home. So I transferred to Rutgers, and I said, okay, I really like food, and I want to learn more about it. And I decided, okay, let's major in nutrition. So I get to Rutgers, and like the first couple classes, I love it. And it's funny because as one being a male in nutrition, it's extremely rare. The field is at least 95% women. So being a minority, it's like kind of odd for me because like people are like, oh, you're a nutrition major, like it's more girly, you know, but it's really like a cool science. And also, when I transferred to Rutgers, I was like nervous, you know, I'm going to slip back into this whole cycle. You know, I made all this progress, and now is it going to be one step forward, two steps back, where I go back into this eating disorder thing? So I said, okay, I need to do something that's going to distract me. So I was walking around the student involvement fair, and the crew team comes up to me and they said, hey, you're pretty tall, you look like you could row, why don't you come out and try? So I said, okay, I'll try it. First practice, absolutely hooked. But the problem is that it's exercise. And crew is one of these things where it's strength and endurance all out all the time. So very rigorous, and you need to keep eating. So I said, okay, let's just try it and see what happens. So I ended up rowing for 2 years, and I've still maintained the weight. So I kind of found myself from not having the pressure of my parents and my friends, like you need to gain some weight and stuff, but I kind of found my own kick to beat my own disease, because not every day is perfect. And now, like there are a couple of days where like I'll slip back and like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't be eating this much, because I'm not rowing as much as I used to, and all that stuff. And part of the problem with it is that a lot of men that have it don't come out and speak about it, because it's more of a, they think it's more of like a female thing, and it's very emasculating, which isn't true. There's a million men that have eating and exercise disorders. And the problem with it also is that nutrition and exercise are good things. You're supposed to exercise, you're supposed to eat healthy. So there's that very fine line of where do you cross into obsession and an eating disorder and counting calories. Is that a good thing? Is it too much versus not caring at all, which can lead to the opposite? So for me, majoring in nutrition kind of helped me figure out what the real facts are. And it's funny because the majority of dietetic and nutrition majors have eating disorders. They use it as an excuse to be like, oh, like that's not healthy for me. I know the knowledge, so I'm going to use that to my advantage and not eat. So after that, I just graduated Rutgers, and now I'm at Florida State, and I'm getting my master's in exercise science, and I'm going to become a registered dietitian. So I kind of use nutrition in the opposite way, where I use it as a crutch to further my progress from escaping the eating disorder, because like that little, I call it like the voice, inside your head, it's, they sometimes creeps back and say like, hey, you just ran an hour, why don't you go for another 30 minutes, so you have to kind of fight it and find your own balance and what's the best way to cope with it. I think that's the hardest part, because a lot of people don't know how to cope with it, and it's not the same for everybody. It's very individualized.